अक्षय मूर्ति है। एक ही पूछना था आपको, ये तुम्हारे इसमें जो राजू है ना, गुलकोटा राजू, वो उसको ट्रेनिंग के लिए तुमने ऑलरेडी नॉमिनेट कर दिया कि जरूरत नहीं है उसका? हाँ?
Hi everyone, thank you for joining. We're just waiting for Virali to join us and then we will get on with this.
करना है तो उसका नॉमिनेशन भेज देना, डिटेल्स, ट्रेनिंग ट्रेनिंग। हाँ ठीक है, ओके या थैंक यू।
I hope you're all safe and well. We live in pretty crazy times, and I hope you're joining us from a place that is safe for you and that your family is and your friends are safe as well. Just give me 1 second.
Hello,
Hi Virali, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm well too, thank you. I hope that you are feeling better now. Just for
Yeah.
context, for those who are joining us, Virali couldn't join us the last time around because she was feeling unwell. So I hope you're feeling better now. Yeah?
Yes, much better. Much better. Thank you. And thank you so
Great.
much for agreeing to do this on a later date.
No worries at all. It's been something we've been looking forward to at the team. So any time that we were able to do it, we were happy to do it. So yeah, let's wait for like 2 more minutes. Let's wait for a few more people to join in,
Sure.
and then we will get on with the questions as such. Yeah.
Sounds great. Yeah, let's do that. Otherwise, how's
How
your
are you
lockdown
coping
been
with
for you?
the lockdown has been pretty crazy. I was in Bangalore for the most part of it. I just came home. So I'm in Oman right now, and here the cases are a lot less compared to India. India is unbelievably
Where are you right
devastating.
now?
I'm in
Where?
Oman. I'm in Muscat.
Okay. How are the cases there? There are a lot of cases over there.
They're not as bad as India. I mean, in India is so bad that comparing any other country to India just feels like
It
ridiculous.
feels wrong. It kind of feels
Yeah,
wrong. Yeah.
yeah,
But I don't think it's only India. Like I feel it's America also, just because it's
yeah,
not regulated. People are not caring about it. It's not regulated. The government isn't really doing anything about it. So I feel
yeah,
it's America as well. So India
yeah.
is not far behind though.
It's definitely not, and unfortunately so. So I just hope that you've been safe and well, and people you know are safe as well. Um,
Yes. Thankfully, yes. I mean, everyone that I know, they've been well. They haven't gotten the virus. They've been staying at home. They've been, taking care of themselves. So,
Ankita says your audio isn't audible.
can you guys hear me? If I'm
Your
audible, then
voice
just
is
give a
breaking
thumbs
up.
up.
Is your internet
One
connection
second.
poor?
Yeah.
Your video is also stuck. Okay, I
How
think
about
you're
now?
back with.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's better now.
Can you guys like
Okay.
just let me know? If you guys can hear me.
Okay, as long as they're not complaining, I think we're just going to
I think
assume
that's, yeah,
that.
that's better. As long as there's no complaints, I'm fine with that. Okay, there you go. It's fine now.
Okay, great. Yeah. All right. Okay, so I think we can begin. So before we get into the questions about the media itself, which is what the end agenda of this live at large is, I'd like for you to introduce yourself to us in the sense of who you are, where you are, what your profession is, in whatever detail you would like to, what disability you live with, and how has that journey been so far?
Sure, sure, sure. So, my name is Virali Modi. Where I'm from is a little confusing. I was born in Mumbai. I was raised in America, but I'm actually from Gujarat. I'm a Gujarati. And I guess in 2006, I became disabled due to a fever. Doctors could not diagnose it. I was declared dead. Can you hear me? Like, am I audible?
You are audible, but there is some sort of feedback. I'm not sure what the feedback
There
is
is
because
some.
of.
Can I just join back in?
For sure, yeah.
Yeah, I'll
Yeah,
just join back in.
yeah. Okay, we're waiting for her to come back. So stay tuned. Please don't leave, because I'm sure she has some really valuable insights to add about the intersection between disabilities and menstruation. Ow. Okay, she's joining us.
Hi, can you hear me now?
We can hear you, yes.
It's better.
Hopefully. Let's just stick with it and see.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
So like I was saying, in 2006, I had a fever. I got ill. The doctors could not diagnose it. So due to that, I was declared dead 3 times. I was in a coma. I was not supposed to survive. And the doctors, I was on a ventilator. I couldn't breathe on my own. So the doctors wanted to actually pull the plug from the ventilator. They wanted to basically kill me. And I came out of the coma on my birthday, which is coming up. It's the 29th of September. Um, yeah, after that, I was paralyzed from the neck down. I went through depression, anxiety, everything. I was accepting of my disability, but at the same time, I was not accepting of the way that other people were looking towards me. Like they were
Hmm.
looking at me due to my
Hmm.
disability. So that really
Hmm.
irked me off. I didn't have friends for a majority of my life. Like,
Hmm.
not a majority, but I would say initially 4 or 5 years, I didn't have any friends. I didn't have any social life. I shifted to India in 2008. And in 2010, I started with treatment and therapy, and I got the use of my arms back. I participated in Miss Wheelchair India, where I won second place in that. I was actually molested 3 times by the porters at the railway station. And so in 2017, I started my own campaign called hashtag #MyTrain2 for accessible Indian railways. So other people with disabilities would not have to go through the same kind of manhandling that I went through. So successfully, that petition has over 5 lakh signatures right now, and we've made over 8 stations across the country totally wheelchair accessible.
That is
Total,
amazing.
thank you. Totally wheelchair accessible without any renovations. We just implemented a portable ramp and a small aisle-sized wheelchair. And after that, I guess my motivational speaking career kind of just took off. I'm a 3 time TEDx speaker. I've spoken internationally, I've spoken all over the country. And Yeah, I mean, it's just been amazing. It's been a journey. I've been advocating for disability rights. I've been speaking up about it. I've been doing my best. I was actually also named in BBC 100 Women in 2017. I was named as one of the most influential and inspirational women of 2017 amongst those 100 women that were chosen. Um, so it was amazing. It was great. Uh, the journey has just been spectacular. Is all I can say. It's just been
Yeah,
amazing.
it sounds that way. And kudos to you for all the work that you've done in terms of advocacy for disability rights and actually turning that into results. More power to you for that.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I actually think that your answer to this question is resonates with the feeling that I have that disability persons with disability, their whole life is sort of filtered down and funneled down into being about just their disability. And like speaking with you has sort of reinforced that there is so much more, so many more aspects, just like any of us able-bodied people, and there is a need for us to sort of normalize this conversation.
Correct.
It's really inspirational that you've been able to navigate through, not just navigate through your journey, but navigate through it with such power. And I wish you the best in your advocacy going forward as well.
Thank you
Um,
so much. Thank you.
and now I come to when you were learning to cope with your disability, right? Because you've not been disabled throughout your life. When you were learning to cope with it, what was the journey like in terms of getting used to what changed overall? Like in a sense that there would be things that you could have managed a certain way that would have changed after your disability came in. So what were those things, and how did you learn to sort of figure it out? Did you have any mentors that walked you through it? Things like that.
Well, a lot of things changed. Honestly, like every single thing changed. You know,
Yeah,
from the normal way of doing something to the way of getting dressed, getting up and into the chair in the morning, taking a shower. I think like every minimalistic, minute thing that we can think about, it changed.
yeah,
I definitely did have, physical therapists, occupational therapists, doctors, all of them coaching me, kind of helping me. But at the same time, you need to understand that not every technique that they know will work for you, because you
absolutely.
are an individual at the end of the day. You have your own techniques, and you kind of figure this out with time, right?
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
whatever techniques my doctors were showing me, I
yeah,
kind of understood the principle of it, but then I kind of did things in my own way, which made it easier for me.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And just to like narrow that down a little bit, what age, how old were you when your disability came in?
I was 15.
So had you started menstruating by then?
I did, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And how did that experience shift after you realized that you would be paralyzed from the neck down?
That was, I didn't even think about that. Like, that was not even in my mind. Like, legitimately. And I'm not even joking, because you have so many other things going on in life. You
Yeah,
don't think from that angle. And
yeah.
honestly, like, I didn't restart my period, um, I think until after 5 or 6 months of my disability, due to the
Okay.
medications that I was taking.
Mm-hmm.
So that kind of stopped it, and then it came back on its own.
Hmm.
And again, paralyzed from the neck down, so my mom was helping me a lot,
Hmm.
with like pads and sanitary napkins and all of this. My mom was helping me, and then gradually I realized that these tampons are so much easier. Like, they're
Hmm.
so much better than pads, so much better. And so I started kind of using them, and it I'll just say it's been a godsend. It has been a godsend.
I'm so glad to hear that. And when you were learning to cope, right? Figuring out your way around, adapting to this new change in your life, were there any resources that you used to refer to? Were there resources, I mean written resources, visual resources from people across the world who shared a similar experience, or the media? Was there any? I mean, I know that you were very young, so I suspect that it wouldn't be as much as it would be if you were maybe older, or if the internet was bigger. But
Yeah.
yeah, but either
No.
way.
Like, to answer your question, no, because I never knew how many disabled people there actually are all across the world. Like,
Mm-hmm.
obviously, before your disability, before you become disabled, how many of us actually research those kinds of things which may not affect us? So
Yeah.
I never searched about that. I never understood. I never knew that there were resources available online. I never knew that. So I was
Hmm.
oblivious to everything. So
Hmm.
everything that I've learned up until date has just been trial and error. It's
Hmm.
all been through trial and error. Multiple stains, multiple leakages, multiple everything, and that is when you kind of learn what you need to do, what you don't need to do.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I think that that journey is similar for all of us. I mean,
Yeah,
it's just
yeah,
stains and irritation and rashes, and then you're like, give me an alternative to all of this.
yeah, exactly, exactly.
Yeah, yeah. So just to give context to those who have joined us, this is actually part of a campaign that we are running called Periods and Patrakars, and Patrakars actually translates to journalists. And the idea is to sort of draft a set of recommendations for journalists to follow in order to report on menstruation in a more inclusive manner, with more sensitivity and holistically. So this live is a part of that series where we're trying to understand the perspective of people with disabilities, and what they prefer, or what they wish, not prefer, what they wish would be reflected in the media about their menstrual experience. And for this, we've also done a set of surveys, which one of which Virali also had filled out for us. So one of our respondents to the survey that was made for people with disabilities, this is a person with a visual impairment, and they said that because they are visually impaired, they couldn't tell when their pad is full, and that is a huge constraint that they face, because because it always, there is no real way of knowing, because of this whole dryness
Yeah.
feeling that pad companies sort of try to give you. So that was just a very interesting anecdote for us. It's something we wouldn't have thought of. So do you have other anecdotes from your interactions with people with disabilities about their menstrual experiences, and how it varies across different disabilities?
The biggest thing is I haven't. And I think, like, this is the stigma, and this is like that taboo topic that we need to move past, and we
Yeah,
need to actually have open conversations about this.
yeah,
Because if you look at the consensus of 2011, according
yeah,
to for India, 5 to 6% of the population has some sort of disability.
yeah,
5 or 6% in 2011.
yeah,
Just imagine the number now,
yeah,
right? And no doubt, out of all of them, most of them statistically are male. They are male.
huh,
More of them are male. But the
hmm,
female population, we need to understand that some of these women, they have been either born with a disability, they either had an accident or something that caused their disability, without actually having resources.
hmm,
how are we going to learn to adapt to this new lifestyle?
Yeah,
And I feel that I have never seen any resources regarding menstruation and disability, or how to do what, or what, what better to use, what not. I've never seen that. At least not across, not in these. I don't even know how many years it's been for me now. In these 12, 13 years, I have no
yeah,
idea. I have no idea. So I think it's really important that we talk about these issues, help out the younger generation, or
yeah.
just any generation in general, to kind of help them gradually go through life easier, and with
So
more
what you're
tricks and
saying is
tips.
that the stigma around menstruation also bleeds into the stigma around disabilities, and they sort of co-opt from each other, and nobody talks about either.
Yeah, no one talks about it. No one talks about it. Like, this is legitimately the first time that I'm having a conversation about disability and menstruation together.
Yeah,
This is
yeah,
legitimately the first time in like a social setting. Otherwise, like, I have never had conversations about this, except for like apart from my mom or my friends maybe, who are able-bodied, not even disabled.
yeah,
So
yeah.
it's kind of shameful. Why don't we talk about these things?
Yeah, absolutely. And one constraint that we faced with the survey also, and I discussed this with you off record as well, that it's been a challenge to find people with disabilities who can respond to these surveys because I mean, unfortunately, our circles are very, very defined by Savarna able-bodied people, and to sort of navigate through that majoritarian sort of minority, essentially, like even though they're majoritarian, they are a really small part of the larger scheme of things, right? And to wade through these people and to actually get to the intersections of society, whether it's trans people, whether it's people with disabilities, and whether it is people with menstrual disorders, people from Dalit, Bahujan, and Adivasi communities. It's been a huge challenge for us as well to sort of get to these communities. Someone asks us, who's Savarna? So
What?
Savarna people are basically people who are outside of the Dalit, Bahujan, and Adivasi bracket, and that is essentially the upper castes of our society. And casteism is a very invisible issue in the country as well, among other invisible issues. We really have a laundry list of them. So, that's been a challenge. So, how do you find your community of people with disabilities to sort of, support you in your unique experiences? How does that happen? How do you find that support?
What do you mean exactly? Like, in my unique experiences, if you could
In
elaborate a bit more.
Yeah, yeah, sure. So what I mean is, if like I would assume that your parents are able-bodied, your family is able-bodied, and you mentioned that some of your friends are able-bodied. So
Most
a
of my
lot of
friends
people,
are able-bodied. Most
yeah.
of my friends are.
Yeah. So there would be some experiences that would be different for you, or some emotional experiences also that would be different for you, as a person with a disability versus for able-bodied people, right? So a lot of us rely on support groups for these things, whether it's mental health, whether it's being queer. So does such an ecosystem of support groups exist for people with disabilities, and how do you find your support? Where do you find your support?
I I don't know. This is a very difficult question to answer because I feel that there are support groups outside of the country. I know we
Mm-hmm.
do have support groups here in India. There are many foundations which promote social activities for people with disabilities to get together and to kind of gel with each other, to introduce themselves to each other, and kind of go through life in that way. But personally, I never actually reached out to those kinds of support groups because
Hmm.
I got a very negative vibe in terms
Hmm.
of, for me it's never been about just the disability. For me it's
Absolutely.
always been about the bigger picture. Like it's
Absolutely.
always been about the bigger picture, and the disability is just one small aspect of my life, but who I am as a person is totally different from
Yeah.
that disability. So
Yeah.
I always, like, I never reached out to them. I kind of felt a little bit different from them, and so I never like really approached them for like support
Huh.
or whatever.
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
kind of just figured out life on my own,
Huh.
through the help of my friends, my parents, my family. I kind of just figured stuff out for my own. So
Hmm. 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 Yeah, that makes sense too. Like you said, one solution does not apply to all of us,
yeah,
and if that was not your resort, then so be it. But
yeah.
I'm really glad that you found your ways to cope and found support in whoever is in your life, irrespective of being able-bodied or disabled. And this brings me to another aspect of the entire conversation that we're having, where we're talking about the media, right? So, before we get into the nuances of the media, what are your thoughts about Indian media at large and how we report on issues?
Do we need to talk about this right now? I think everyone, I think we all have been seeing what's happening currently in the news, right? I don't need to elaborate on that. I'll
Yeah,
basically just say this. I I posted something regarding this about how, this whole case has become a media trial. It's kind of like a witch hunt,
yeah,
and she's guilty, she's not guilty, that's a different thing altogether.
yeah,
But it's it's irrespective, just at least respect boundaries, and respect that she is a woman at the end of the day, and let's
yeah.
just respect each other on a humanity level,
Humanitarian level,
and
yeah.
let's kind of move on from that. Like, everyone has their own opinions. I have my own opinion on this whole case, and I'm not saying that I'm supporting left or right or whatever. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that it is not being covered tastefully, is what I'm trying to
Right,
say.
right.
And I posted about that, and I actually got threats. I actually got threats from people because they thought that I was supporting, not I was supporting her, rather.
Hmm, hmm,
And so I got threats. I got people calling me fake, calling my disability fake, saying that I am Salman Khan's lapdog because apparently I did a shoot with him 2 years ago. अभी तक connection भी नहीं है, but apparently I'm his lapdog. I heard a lot of things, but just then I posted that. I heard a lot of things, and I feel, yeah, our media is covering things very distastefully. I
hmm,
believe that. But B, I also feel that our society and everyone on social media, we're also not being tasteful about what we say. And I've
hmm,
heard such horrible things being said
hmm,
about both
hmm,
sides, let me make that clear. I
hmm.
just find it to be very distasteful, and I find it to be abhorrent, and I feel that we need to move on in our lives now. Like, आगे बढ़ो, लॉकडाउन अभी थोड़ा धीरे धीरे खत्म हो रहा है. अभी देखो वेलापंथी बंद हो गया, मतलब अभी देखो कि क्या
Yeah,
करना है.
yeah.
And so I feel that when it comes to even issues regarding sensitivity, our
Hmm,
media does not, they try to cover it tastefully and with sensitivity, but sometimes it comes out insensitive, to be
yeah,
really honest. It
yeah.
does, especially when it comes to consent for pronouns or for words, adjectives, like for he and her, he and him, she and her, or when it comes to for someone with a disability. I am never asked what word I would want to be called. It is
Hmm,
always differently abled that is put in there. And they never ask me. And whenever I read it, I'm like, you should have asked my consent for what word I would rather be called.
Absolutely.
It's my it's terminology. I have the right to decide what term I should be called. And I
Yeah,
stick to disabled. I don't stick to differently abled. I'm trying to normalize using the word disabled, and I'm trying to correlate it with positivity rather than negativity.
yeah,
So ask me. That's the biggest
yeah,
thing. Consent. Like, what have we fighting about? What have we been fighting about? Consent, equality, feminism, women empowerment. We've been doing all of this, and the basics you're forgetting when it comes to someone with a disability.
yeah. It's very conditional, no? It seems like you will be sensitive about one thing or two things, and you will sort of put everything else on the back burner when it comes to a certain issue or a certain sect of society. So yeah, I'm completely on board with what you say, and which is why this whole need was recognized for, okay, somebody needs to tell the media that, okay, we need to be doing things better.
Yeah.
But I think you've also pointed out something really pertinent that I would also like to bring out again, is the fact that when we engage with issues as consumers of issues as well, not just as the media, but our consumption of it also is lacking in sensitivity, and we have as much of a responsibility to be sensitive and respectful of the issue, rather than be blatant and rude and offer threats and any of these horrible
Correct.
things that go on. So yeah, completely agree with you, and thank you so much for that perspective. And I would like to ask you if you have. I would assume that you would have been interviewed sometime during these years, or for one of your advocacy projects, or after you won the place in that pageant. I'm sorry, I forget the name. Um,
It's okay.
yeah, so during your interviews, how do you find that the media interviews you? Like, do you feel like there is a lens of othering, in the sense that, you are different from I am, um, and I'm going to look at you with a certain lens? Do you feel that way ever, or do you feel like it's really
I
respectful lens?
I do feel that way sometimes, and I think it just goes from individual to individual. It just differs because
Yeah,
again, all journalists are not the same. So
yeah,
whenever I'm being interviewed, of course, it just depends on the person, how they are, how lively they are, how they want to interact with me. And even if people are trying to be more politically correct around me, or people are trying to be a little bit careful, a little bit sensitive, I am that person that kind of breaks that whole image because I'm very upfront and in your face, and people have said that I am bold in the way that I speak about things, or in the way that I my ideologies are, or the way that I think about things. So people have said that I am a little bit bold in that aspect, and
hmm,
I'm just like upfront, जो भी है मुंह पे है, like it's
hmm,
nothing is going to be concealed. And so I feel that it's a huge shock for them as journalists, because they probably haven't come across people with disabilities with such vivaciousness, I suppose.
hmm,
um, and so I take pride in that, and I take pride in being that person, because I feel like that is who I am, is like to break this stigma, to break this ice, like this ice shelf. It's an icebreaker for me.
yeah,
So I'm also a Modi. अच्छे दिन के लिए मैं भी कोशिश कर रही हूँ, so
huh. Yeah, absolutely. And I'm glad that you've had experiences where certain journalists are a little more willing to just be on the same page and talk about it, like calling a spade basically.
exactly.
Uh Rather than sort of beating around the bush, trying to be careful and trying to be um politically accurate.
Yeah, exactly.
And sorry, you were saying?
No, no, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. And now, my most important question with regard to this live is that, what do you wish the media does better when it's covering menstruation? for people with disabilities, and that experience versus the able-bodied experience.
I feel, first of all, actually talk about it, because,
Hmm.
like I said, we don't. I haven't read anything in the news about
Yeah.
menstruation regarding to disability. So actually talking about it first. Secondly, reporting it with sensitivity rather than just being distasteful about it, like reporting
Hmm.
it with actual sensitivity and asking for consent. I feel that is very important. Like again,
Hmm.
regarding the now the pronouns, the adjectives, the terminology, like asking
Hmm.
for consent in terms of that, and
Hmm.
talking to medical professionals also, getting them involved, getting their perspective. I feel
Hmm.
that's really important, because
Yeah.
for me, it's always, I've kind of always been a little bit clueless when it came to, acha, which doctor do I talk to about these issues?
Yeah.
Menstruation, like who do I talk to about this? And even when it comes to like going to an OBGYN or a gynecologist, again, this whole stigma, like let me just talk to you about this experience. I
Yeah.
remember visiting the gynecologist, because everyone, we all need to get checked up.
Yeah.
Women all need to get checked up, and we all need to make sure that everything is okay down there, and it's all good. And so I went to the gynecologist. I was in the waiting room, and everyone there was either married, or they were pregnant, or they were expecting a child, or they were wanting to get pregnant, and everyone was just staring at me like, why is she here? Like, oh my god, ye kya paap karke aayi hai? Like,
Hmm.
legitimately, people were staring at me like that, with that mindset,
Hmm.
and I was feeling very uncomfortable, like
Yeah.
incredibly uncomfortable. I
Yeah.
went into the office. I spoke to my doctor, and I was telling her that, thank you so much for not being judgmental about
Hmm.
anything, and
Hmm.
like for talking about these issues with me as just like a normal person, rather than viewing my disability. Of course, we did talk about the disability and how it's affected me, and all of that, because it's important for her records, for my history. But there was never 1 ounce of insensitivity, or there was never
Hmm.
1 ounce of like, why are you here, or whatever. It was never like that. It was always
Hmm.
very direct, very warm, very welcoming. And I
Yeah.
remember actually, before leaving, like I hugged her, and I kind of had tears in my eyes also, and I was like, thank you so much for not being judgmental about anything, about any issue. Because I mean, come on, I'm an unmarried woman going to a gynec's office. People think things,
Yeah.
and I mean, for me, it's like I don't care what people think, but when you have like 50 people staring at you at once, it
Yeah.
kind of becomes uncomfortable.
I can
So
imagine. I can imagine.
I just
Yeah.
feel like
And
this stigma needs to go away. That
it does.
even if you are disabled, even if you are single, like it's totally okay for you to go to the gynec's office. It's totally
Yeah.
okay for you to buy a condom at the medical store. It's
Yeah.
totally okay for you to buy an eye pill at the medical store without any judgment. And there
Yeah.
should be no judgment. Rather,
Absolutely.
it should be celebrated that you are taking care of yourself. It should
Yes.
be
Yes.
celebrated. And you should
Yes.
not be shamed for that.
Yeah.
Even if you're disabled or if you're not disabled, you should not be shamed for that.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. Completely. And I think like judgmental gynecologists are so rampant that the moment you find somebody who is not judgmental, you're just like, Bhagwan mil gaya mujhe. Because
Swear. I swear to God. I was like, आप ही भगवान हो मेरे लिए, पूजा मैं आपका ही करूंगी. और surprisingly, my doctor's name is Pooja. So
yeah, absolutely. I remember. And the code, they always talk in euphemisms. They will never talk directly. So they will not ask you if you're sexually active. They will ask you, are you married?
हाँ, हाँ, I swear. Thankfully, my gynecologist never asked me that. She was very direct about everything. and I was very upfront about me and my issues and my health and everything, and I told her, and she was very chill and she was very cool about it. And when I told her, I was like, thank you so much for not being judgmental. There are so many people that gynecologists as well, that are so judgmental. She's like,
Yeah,
why do I have to be judgmental? It's your life.
yeah,
You do what you want to do in your life. I am here to look after your health. If you have any problems, I am no
yeah,
one to judge you.
yeah.
No one to judge you. And if
That
you
is so
have
rare.
casual, yeah, so rare. And she was like, if you have casual relationships, if you are sexually active, as long as you are taking protection, you are taking the precautions, and you are safe, that is all that matters. Everything
Yeah,
else is your business.
yeah,
Everything other than your body and all of that, I'm there to take care of it. Like, I'm there to make sure that you're okay. But
yeah.
everything else is your business. It's not my business. So
Wow.
yeah, and
I'm kind
surprisingly,
of jealous of you right now.
are you? I think everyone should be jealous of me. I found a kick-ass guy. And surprisingly, I was talking to this other person. Um, it was this astrologer. My dad put me up to it or whatever. And so he was like, "कि शादी कब होगी तेरी? ये पता कर ले, वो पता कर ले." And I'm like, I'm not interested and I don't want to, but fine, I'll do it just because you said so. So she was asking me like, do you are you like, are you in a relationship? Do you have any relationships? um uh, all of this, and I was like, I have casual relationships, and I'm not ashamed to, like, admit
Yeah.
that. And she was like, surprisingly, she was like, why should you be ashamed to admit that anyway?
Are you kidding me?
Astrologer, dude.
Are you kidding me right
I'm
now?
not kidding you. I'm not kidding you. And she was like, you have no reason to be ashamed to do that. And there's nothing wrong with it. You're happy in your professional life. You don't want to commit with someone. And we all have needs. It's understood. You enjoy the companionship of someone. It's okay. Do what you have to do until you find the right person. I am like, wait a second. ये कहाँ से ये क्या हो रहा है? Like, people are changing and I'm loving this.
Wow, that is wonderful. I'm so happy that you've had pleasant experiences.
Yeah.
And so I identify as queer, okay? And I'm so on the fence about going to a gynecologist because they're gonna ask me about like being married or like being in a relationship, and I don't know their perspective on like are they homophobic or not. And it is so daunting. I've not dared to go to a gynecologist in over I don't even know how long because I'm so worried about the fact that they will be this judgmental and insensitive, and it's just so I'm really happy to hear that you've had pleasant experiences, and I hope that your experiences are more common, and I hope a
I
lot more
hope
of us
so. I
have these
really
positive
hope.
experiences.
I really, really hope so.
Yeah, and so we work in menstrual health, right? And when we get customer calls sometimes really late at night, and they're like, the cup is stuck, it's not getting out. I'm really scared, and I think I should go to the doctor. And we're like, no, you don't have to go to the doctor. Let us talk you through it, and you'll get it out of yourself, and it cannot get lost in your body. And all of these different perceptions that exist about menstrual cups. So when it came to one such person, they couldn't wait till the morning. We said wait till the morning, and you'll be completely safe. In the morning, we'll call you, and then we'll get this figured out. And they couldn't wait, so they went to the doctor, and this doctor for no reason prescribed a set of antibiotics for them, got the cup out and prescribed antibiotics. Why? Just because they didn't know about cups. So there are so many of these doctors who really don't know much. So then again, when we talk about involving medical professionals in the media, it becomes a very tricky space as to who is qualified or aware enough to comment on something. I
I
think that
think
is
that
also
is
a
like,
challenge.
yeah, I get that, but I think that is all gonna happen from trial and error.
Yeah.
actually just talking to people. I think that's what's going to happen.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, I guess so. I guess so. Okay. Those are most of the questions that I had for you. I really appreciate you taking your time out on a weekend and sort of
No worries.
engaging with me.
No worries. No
And
worries.
I would like to ask if you want to if you want to leave us with some thoughts, something to for us to think about, or something you want to share as an experience, or as how able-bodied people can do better towards to behave in a more accessible manner to people with disabilities.
I think the one thing that I would say is we need to move past
Hmm.
terminology. We need to move past it, because I feel that instead of focusing on more pressing issues, like again, accessibility, menstruation and disability, sexuality and disability, all
Yeah.
of these things, these are more pressing issues. We need to
Yeah.
stop talking about terminology in
Yeah.
itself. Like
Yeah.
हम ना सिर्फ क्या करते हैं, we only fight about terminology, like how did this person call me disabled, I am differently abled, or why did this person call me a divyang, I am handicapped, I define myself with the term handicapped.
Hmm.
Whatever it may be for people, I feel we need to move past this.
Hmm.
We need to focus on more pressing issues, and I
Hmm.
feel we need to be more vocal about these things. We
Hmm.
need to be more vocal. I feel like that's really important, and I feel when people understand that accessibility, sexuality and disability, menstruation and disability, it is just not a me issue, it is an everyone's issue. It
Correct.
isn't everyone's problem, because
Correct.
ultimately, one day or the other, your friends, your family, you yourself may require the use of a wheelchair. Maybe
Yeah.
not, maybe not permanently, but maybe temporarily. How are
Yeah.
you going to cope during those times?
Yeah.
How are you going to help someone out during those times? The only way that you can help them out, sorry, the only way that you can help them out is actually constantly talking about these things,
Yeah.
spreading awareness, getting a better insight into these kinds of situations,
Yeah.
and hoping and praying and constantly talking about these things in order to create impact and implementation.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I feel
And
that's really
I think
important.
your campaign for making ramps accessible and existent in the first place at railway stations and other public spaces that I constantly see are not wheelchair accessible. It's a case in the importance of constant effort rather than for us to do this one off and then sort of like shut the doors on it and say, okay, we did this long ago, ho gaya hamara, humne tokenism kar liya. I think a lot of these things are about tokenism
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
like
It is. It's more about tokenism than rather than actually doing it for a cause,
yeah,
rather than actually implementing it because it's a right. Like honestly, having accessibility is a privilege, I feel. Like in
yes, and it
India, I
shouldn't
feel it's a
be.
privilege,
Yeah,
and it's a shame.
it's a shame, absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, Sai. Yeah, I mean, all of these realizations always leave me wondering, how much there is for us to do. And there is hope in that. While there is pressure in the fact that there is so much to do, there is also hope in the fact that there is so much room for us to make things better if we keep
Yeah.
trying. And then the only option is to keep trying. So,
Yeah.
um,
I keep trying and keep talking about it and spreading awareness. That's the only option that we have.
yeah, yeah. And the media, I think, is a great place to start when we're talking about spreading awareness.
Yes.
So I hope some people that joined us today have contacts in the media and we'll have this conversation with them. I hope some of you were journalists who joined us. And I will try to definitely include you further in the process as well when we're making the recommendations because we'd like to be representative, which is the whole point of doing these talks with people and sort of bringing these conversations to the mainstream. because I've personally not seen them happen, and I don't think I'm in a minority. I think a lot of us haven't seen these conversations happen with these
Oh yeah,
minority communities. So
definitely, definitely.
yeah. Yeah, so thank you so much for your time and for being so vulnerable with us and so open to sharing your thoughts and experiences and taking out time. And thank you so much to everybody else who joined as well, took out time on a Sunday and engaged with us and shared perspectives in the comments. We were constantly reading your perspectives and
Yeah, that was very interesting.
yeah,
Very
yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, so I think we're about done for this live. Thank you again.
No,
I
thank you
hope
so
you're
much.
safe, and I hope
Yes.
everybody else that is joining us has been safe and well. Yeah,
Thank you so much, Pratyush. I really appreciate it.
absolute pleasure speaking with you, Virali.
Likewise, likewise. Take care of yourself.
You too. Bye.
Bye.